All right, how you guys doing today? I'm back. We had a little 5 day hiatus, according to what I'm looking at on the channel. Last video I posted was 5 days ago, and yeah, but my dance team, we had a performance. So like I've been practicing, but the practices have been pretty sporadic. However, last week was our spring break from school, so this week we came back to performance on Saturday. So it was practice from like 7:30 p.m. to about 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. And I work at a school, so I'm waking up at 5:30. So every day I was getting like anywhere from maybe 3.5 to, and on a good day, 6 hours of sleep. But it probably was close to that 3-4 range for the past couple of days. And I won't lie, there was definitely like the opportunity to be here and to put effort into the channel. However, did I take that effort? Not necessarily. However, am I back and still invigorated in my faith? I went to church last week on Sunday. Went to church this week on Sunday. Right. I've been staying in my faith journey is, I would say, still strong. Right. It's the same it is when I'm here, when I'm not here. I'm still rocking with God. I still know about my salvation. He's still on my mind all the time. And so we still show up. Regardless of the fact, last time we read, we were in Deuteronomy chapter 10. That means we're going on to Deuteronomy chapter 11. You could probably still hear my voice. Even though I was getting very little sleep and the performance is over, I still haven't rested well. Because why would I? Anyway, we're going on to Deuteronomy chapter 11, but I rest in the fact that Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Therefore, thou shalt love the Lord thy God and keep his charge and his statutes, his judgments, his commandments always. And know ye this day, for I speak not with your children, which ye have not known, and which have not seen the chastisement of the Lord your God, and his greatness, and his mighty hand, and his stretched out arm, and his miracles, and his act which he did in the midst out of Egypt, of the Pharaoh unto the king of Egypt, unto all his land, and what he did to the army of Egypt, unto their horses and their chariots, how he made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them as they pursued after you, and how the Lord hath destroyed them unto this day, and what he did unto you in the wilderness until you came out unto this place, and what he did unto you unto Dathan and Abiram and the sons of Eliab and the son of Reuben, and how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents and their substance that was in their possession in the midst of all of Israel. But your eyes have seen all the great acts of the Lord which he did. Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that ye may be strong, and ye may go and possess the land whither ye go to possess it, that ye may prolong your days in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give unto them the seed, that the land flows with milk and honey. For the land whither thou goest to possess it is not the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest the seed and waterest thy root of the garden of herbs, but the land whither ye go to possess it, in the land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water out of rain in heaven, a land which the Lord thy God careth for, and the eyes of the Lord thy God were always upon it from the beginning of the year even until the end of the year. It shall come to pass that if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God and serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of this land in due season, for the first rain and the latter rain thou may gather in the corn, the wine, thine oil. And I will send the grass in thy field for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves, that your heart be not deceived, and turn ye not aside to serve other gods and worship them. Then the Lord's wrath will be kindled against you, and shall shut up the heaven, and there shall be no rain, and the land shall yield not her fruit, lest ye perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord giveth you. Therefore shall ye lay up these your words in the heart and your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. Ye shall teach them your children, speaking of them when thou shalt sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by thy way, and thou liest down, and thou risest up, that thou shalt write them upon the door of thine house and upon thy gates, that in your days may be multiplied in the days of your children, in the land which the Lord your God sware unto your fathers to give them, as the days of heaven upon the earth. For if ye shall diligently keep all these commandments which I command you to do them, love the Lord your God, and walk in his ways, cleave unto them, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and ye shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. Every place whereon the soles of your feet shall tread shall be yours, from the wilderness in Lebanon, from the river to the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea shall your coast be. There shall be no man able to stand before you, for the Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread upon the land which ye shall tread on, and he hath said unto you, Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and a curse if you not obey the commandments of the Lord God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, and go after other gods which ye have not known. It shall come to pass, when the Lord thy God has brought thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, that thou shalt put the blessing upon the mount of Gerizim, and the curse upon the mount Ebal, and They, not on the other side of Jordan, by the way which the sun goes down in the land of the Canaanites, which dwell in the Champaign, over upon Gilgal, by the side of the plains of Morah. For ye shall pass over Jordan, and to possess the land which the Lord your God gives you, and ye shall possess and dwell therein. Ye shall observe to do all the statutes and judgments which I set before you this day. And then we go on to chapter 12. And these are the statute judgments which ye shall observe and do in the land which the Lord your God of your fathers gives there to possess in all the days that ye live upon the earth. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods upon the high mountains, upon the hills, and under every green tree. Ye shall overthrow their altars, break their pillars, burn their groves of fire, and ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and destroy the names of them out of that place. Ye shall do not so unto the Lord your God, but unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes, and put his name there, even unto this habitation shall ye seek, and thither thou shalt come. And thither ye shall bring your burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, and your tithes, and your heave offerings, and your hand, and your vows, and your freewill offerings, and the firstlings of your herd and of your flocks. And there shall ye eat before the Lord your God, and ye shall rejoice in all that ye put in your hand unto ye and your households, wherein the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. And ye shall not do after the things which we do here this day, but every man whosoever is right in his own eyes. For ye are not as yet come into the rest of the inheritance which the Lord your God gives you, when ye go over the Jordan, which dwell in the land which the Lord your God gives you to inherit, when he gives you from the rest of your enemies round about, so that ye would dwell in safely. Then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell therein. Thither ye shall bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, and your heave offering of your hand, and your choice vows which ye vow unto the Lord. Ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God, and ye and your sons and your daughters, and your manservants and your maidservants, and the Levite that is within your gates, for as much as he hath no part nor inheritance with you. And take heed to thyself that thou not offer burnt offerings in every place that thou seest, but the place which the Lord shall choose in one of thy tribes, there shalt thou offer burnt offerings, and there shalt thou do all that I command thee. Notwithstanding, thou mayest kill and eat flesh in thy gates, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, according to the blessing of the Lord your God which he has given thee. The unclean and the clean may eat thereof, and out of the roebuck as of the hart. And ye shall not eat the blood, but ye shall pour it upon the earth as water. And thou mayest not eat within the gates of the tithe of thy corn, or thy wine, or thine oil, or the firstlings of thine herd, or their flock, or any of the vows which thou vowest, nor of their freewill offerings, or their heave offerings of thy hand, but thou may eat them before the Lord your God in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, thou and thy son and thy daughter, thy maidservant, the Levite that is within thy gates, and thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God in all that thou puttest thine hands unto. Take heed to thyself that thou forsake not the Levite as long as thou livest upon the earth. When the Lord thy God shall enlarge thy border as he hath promised thee, and thou shalt say, I will eat flesh, because thy soul longs to eat flesh, and thou mayst eat flesh whatsoever thy soul lusts after. If the place which the Lord thy God has chosen to put his name there to be too far from thee, then shalt thou kill up the herd in thy flock which the Lord hath given thee, and I commanded thee, and thou shalt eat in thy gates whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. But even as the roebuck in the hart is eaten, so thou shalt eat them, and the unclean and the clean shall eat of them alike. Only be sure that thou eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and thou mayest not eat the life which is in the flesh. And thou shalt not eat it, but thou shalt pour it upon the earth as water. Thou shalt not eat it, that thou may go well with thee, and thy children after thee. And when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord, only the holy things which thou hast in thy vows they shall take, and go into the place which the Lord your God shall choose. And thou shalt offer the burnt offerings, flesh and the blood, upon the altar of the Lord thy God. Blood of the sacrifice shall be poured out upon the altar of the Lord thy God, and thou shalt eat the flesh. Observe and hear all these words which I command thee, that it may go well with thee and thy children after thee forever. And when thou doest what is good and right in the sight of the Lord thy God, when the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, whether thou goest to possess them, and thou shalt succeed as them as dwellest in the land, take heed to thyself that thou not be snared and followed by them, and after that they shall be destroyed in before thee. And thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do the same unto the Lord thy God for every abomination to the Lord which he hath done unto their gods, for even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. Whatso thing soever I command you, observe to do it, and thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. That's all. Have a great one.